Hey M Club, welcome to MenoLabs Live. Since it's February, we are thinking about heart health. So I wanted that to happen. So we're going to be talking about how hormonal changes during perimenopause and menopause can affect heart health symptoms and how to tell what's normal and when to look a little deeper. I'm so honored and excited to have our first cardiologist with us today. So please get ready with your questions. Put your questions in the comment section below already if you have them available. But I'm so excited about our guest today. As always, this session should not be considered medical advice and is being provided for information purposes only. It is not intended to substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult with your healthcare provider should you have any questions or concerns. I'm going to invite in our guest now. I cannot wait. Our cardiologist, everyone. Our cardiologist is with us today. And we're going to be talking about heart health, but I'm going to invite her in. There's going to be a bit of a delay. So I'd love it if you'd share what stage of the menopause journey you are in. I will start it off. I am proudly in peri. So I'm going to invite her in now. Let's see where she is. I'm going to just search for her. And let's see. Sorry, everyone. There she is. Line. So as soon as she's in, we can get started, but let us know what stage of the menopause journey you're on. Welcome. So excited to have you here. My name is Natasha, and I'm the community manager for MenoLabs. So honored to have you with us, Dr. Jayne Morgan, who is a cardiologist and founder of the Stairwell Chronicles. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. What are you drinking today?
I'm drinking sparkling water, but I also have just a little bit of jasmine and chamomile tea mixed in. So there you have it.
I love that mix. I'm writing that down, jasmine and chamomile. I usually do them separately, but I love that. I'm having a little matcha to celebrate. I just went to a doctor's appointment and had good news, so I'm celebrating with a matcha. But let's get started. I want to remind everyone, ask questions in the comment section below, but we'll start off with, why does heart health deserve special attention during perimenopause and menopause?
You know what? That's always such a great question. And people always ask, what is a cardiologist doing talking about menopause? Shouldn't this just be OBGYNs? But the fact of the matter is, heart disease is the #1 killer of women.
Mm-hmm.
And your risk of heart disease doubles during perimenopause. So that perimenopausal transition, meaning the entire time leading up to menopause, your estrogen levels are decreasing. And it doesn't mean that you're not fertile and that you're still not ovulating and you can get pregnant, because oftentimes people will say, well, I don't need birth control pills. Yes, you do, if you're trying not to get pregnant. So you can still be fertile, but you haven't reached the point where you stopped having menstrual cycles for at least a year. That period of time doubles your risk of heart disease. So prior to perimenopause, your risk of heart disease is only half that of a man's. When you get to the other side, it equals that of a man. And why is that? It's because of that loss of estrogen. Estrogen is actually the hormone that protects a woman's heart. So estrogen is not just in our reproductive system, it is all over, and including our hearts.
So interesting. I'll let you get that. Okay. How does the drop in estrogen, well, that's what you just said. How does the drop in estrogen increase cardiovascular risk? Because of that, then it is going to, I don't want to say, I mean, it affects you to the point where you could, have a heart attack. I just don't want to say it like that, but yeah.
Yeah, not only might you have a heart attack, you might have a heart attack and not be aware that you're having the symptoms of a heart attack, because a woman's symptoms may be different. So now not only is your risk increasing because you're in perimenopause and you're having any number of symptoms and you're just thinking, I can manage them, it's not so bad, I can, do a little bit of this or a little bit of that. But the fact of the matter is, you really shouldn't ignore them, because they're signals to you that your risk of heart disease is increasing. Because of that, a woman's symptoms might be different. In addition to that, maybe is what I should say. So not only is your risk of heart disease increasing, now you may have symptoms that you're not even recognizing. So for instance, you might just feel fatigued or tired. Who doesn't feel tired sometimes? Or you might have some back pain, or even shoulder pain in your right shoulder and not your left one, or jaw pain. Many women are sitting in the dentist's office having a heart attack. But their oral exam is normal because neither the dentist nor the woman recognize that jaw pain is actually a cardiac symptom in women. So here we are doing this period of our lives, which can be, 15 to 20 years, 35 to 55. We're going through this transition period. It can be, through any number of mechanisms, really all the way up to 60. It really depends on a number of things of when perimenopause starts for you and how long it lasts. But it is a period of accelerated risk for heart disease. And that's one of the ways that I try to reframe what perimenopause means. It's not about being uncomfortable. I actually have women say to me, I can manage it. It's okay. It's not about managing it. It's not about whether you can tough through it. Often we're told to kind of tough it out, or we feel as if we should just manage these things. First of all, we are entitled to be comfortable. We are entitled to feel well. We are entitled to think clearly. We're entitled to be productive for our entire lives. But we're also entitled to have good heart health. And those are the dots that we're not connecting with regard to perimenopause and what it means for your heart. Not just, I'm stopping my menstrual cycle. Yay! I have all these symptoms. Boo. No. It's also about your heart. Let's figure this out.
There's so much great information here. One thing I want to point out is the education piece, because women are going to these specialists, dentists, doctors that aren't OBGYNs, even OBGYNs that don't know about perimenopause and menopause.
That's
so They
right.
don't know these symptoms could be affecting them. So it goes back to educating women and making sure you're reading these amazing books, which we'll get into later. And then also following people like you to get that information that we need. Also, going back to symptoms, what is the connection? Because there's symptoms in perimenopause, 42 plus of them. What is the connection to hot flashes and night sweats and heart health?
Yeah, and that plus, you said 42 plus, that plus is
Yes.
important because it's probably 65 and plus and
It
75
probably
and plus. This list is growing all of the time.
Definitely.
And so those symptoms that you could be having, like hot flashes and night sweats, are actually indicators of advancing heart disease. And we've seen actually some interesting studies come out looking at carotid arteries. These are arteries on either side of your neck, and the narrowing of the inside of these arteries correlating with the number of hot flashes you're having. And women who have more hot flashes, they looked at 6 per day, which sometimes women can have 6 per hour. So I get that may not be a lot, but this is how the study was designed. So those who were having 6 hot flashes or more per week actually had a greater narrowing of those carotid arteries. Why is that important? These carotid arteries are the big arteries where the heart is pumping blood that brain. So if those arteries are narrowing, it increases your risk of both stroke and dementia. So it's very important to understand the connection of the heart and the brain. The heart and the brain have a really intricate connection. And what happens to the heart happens to the brain. What happens to the brain happens to the heart. We work like in this circuitry. So that's why it's really very important. So hot flashes and night sweats are not kind of, ha ha, look at her.
Yeah.
Let's turn on a fan. Let's see if we can cool her off, which is fine. She can be comfortable, but it's also her body literally screaming to the world, look at me. My risk of heart disease is increasing. My risk of stroke is increasing. And the only thing that's being done for me is my friends are turning on fans. So that's the thought that we've got to stop and say, look, the fans are fine. The ha-ha moments really are not funny because this woman's risk of heart disease is increasing right before our eyes, and heart disease is the #1 killer of women. It is not breast cancer. It is heart disease.
That part, yeah. And that's what stood out to me. It's usually hot flashes and night sweats that are joked about in movies and TV shows. And when I heard that this is one of the things that you could be looking out for, symptoms to work out for heart disease, I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't we have that connection? People should have that awareness so that they can know to go to the doctor and say, hey, I'm having a lot of hot flashes. I want to make sure everything else is okay.
That's right.
It's that awareness.
Correct.
Many women are told they aren't having a heart attack when they go to the emergency room. What are symptoms women should look out for with heart attacks? You shared a little earlier, most women don't realize what those symptoms are. What are those things that women should be aware of, since it's different than men's?
Sure. So some of those symptoms are feeling fatigued, feeling tired, maybe having flu-like symptoms that you just can't shake. You wake up in the morning tired. You haven't even started your day and you're exhausted. You're having maybe some nausea or abdominal pain, or you're having pain in your jaw or pain in your right arm instead of your left arm, or even back pain. So, in other words, what I'm really saying, another way to think about it is you're not having crushing chest pain or
Mm,
chest squeezing, an elephant's not sitting on your chest, you're not short
different.
of breath, you're not breaking out into a cold sweat, you're not, collapsing on the floor, all of these very dramatic things that we see in movies and we see on
Yeah.
TV shows, which actually occur, but they occur more commonly in men. And so those
Mm.
symptoms that we see depicted over and over and over and over again are really the male pattern symptoms.
Oh,
And we're not
interesting.
taught the symptoms of a woman. So that's one of the reasons why a woman's risk of heart disease not only increases, but her risk of dying from a first heart attack is much higher than the risk of a man in his first heart attack because of that delay in time in getting to the emergency room,
Yep.
delay in time in getting to the cath lab, delay in time in recognizing your symptoms, delay. When we talk about delay, we're talking about cardiac health, minutes matter.
Yeah.
Think about sometimes we are home for days. Now, in our defense, fatigue can be related to any number of things.
Yes, that's the hard
So
part.
you just aren't tired and we just run straight to the emergency room. So, that
Mhm.
is a little bit of teasing it, but you have to also think, did the fatigue come on gradually or suddenly? Am I tired still every day? Am I
Mm.
not getting over it? So those are
Okay.
the kinds of things where you just don't linger and stay at home for the next few weeks. Give yourself a couple of days. If your PEP isn't returning, you need to be evaluated in an emergency room and in a facility that is interested and knowledgeable about women and women's heart health. Now, you may not know which ones they are,
Yeah.
which is fine. Go to your
Okay.
nearest facility. But then when you are there, if you feel as if you're being dismissed or triaged to
Mm.
lower levels of care and concern, which also equal death and equal poor outcomes,
Yeah.
where your male counterpart has gone right in because he has all the symptoms that we recognize, and you as a woman are still sitting in the waiting room having your heart attack, um, you should ask for an EKG. I want every woman to get into a habit of asking for an EKG. Now you're speaking the language of the system. Now the system understands that, hey, I'm thinking about my heart. You need to
You need
think
to be,
about it
yeah.
too. And
Would you
then the
ask for the
EKG will
EKG
come
at the
back.
emergency room, or would you have to go to your normal doctor for that?
You should ask for it wherever you are. If
Okay.
you're showing up wherever you are with symptoms and you think people aren't taking it seriously,
Okay.
instead of, we try to advocate for ourselves, but
That's what
wait,
I was
I
thinking.
watched
Yeah.
Dr. Morgan on the MenoLabs podcast and she said, and you're trying to advocate for yourself and
Yeah.
nothing's getting done. Speak the language of the system.
Okay.
Ask for an EKG. Now, everybody on the medical team understands that.
Okay.
We know
We're
it that
armed
way.
and ready, ladies. We're
We're
armed and
armed and
ready.
ready. So just
Does the
very
age of
few words.
menopause, I found out I had high cholesterol at 36 after presenting what looked like a healthy person.
Right.
And I say all of that to ask how old should women be when they start having their labs taken?
Oh my gosh. In your 20s, maybe
20.
even teenage. Here's why I say that. It doesn't mean that you're sick,
Yeah.
but it means that you should have a baseline of where
Yeah.
you are when you're healthy.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
So we need to know what you look like when you're healthy,
I agree.
so that when something happens, we know what the interval of time and
Mm,
change has been.
so
So yes,
true.
you should have baseline labs when you are very, very young, and healthy. Don't wait until you're sick. I'm not feeling well. I want you all to practice preventive care.
I
The
love that.
system here in the United States is not a healthcare system. It is a sick care system. And
Yes.
you've
Yep.
heard that many times. And we are excellent at sick care. We probably are second to none in the world
Mm,
in intervening.
yes.
But we are horrible at preventing us from coming there in the
That's so
first
true.
place. So
That's so
listen, the
true.
decisions you make today, I want you to look at yourself today and think about what kinds of decisions you want to make for yourself and your health for your future self 20
Hmm.
years from now.
I love
Where do
that.
you want to live 20 years from now? So if you're in your 20s, what do you want to do in your 40s? So you certainly would like to have some labs. So go ahead and get them done
Yeah.
so that in your 40s, right? We know what's been happening since your
That's so
20s. So
true.
think about your future self.
I
And what
love
would your future self want to do?
So
And would
which
your
labs would
future
you
self,
recommend?
Oh, yeah. So different labs for different stages in a woman's life.
Yeah.
In your 20s, you probably just need baseline standard labs, right? The
Yeah.
labs that are just going to be drawn at your doctor's office. You
Perfect.
don't need things that are highly specialized unless there's something specific either in your symptoms or your family history or something that that physician is looking for or wants to watch or monitor.
Okay.
They're just baseline labs. Now that's different during perimenopause. During perimenopause, baseline labs are fine, but I might start to add other things that we want to be um, cognizant of. One of those might be your cholesterol. So it's not just cholesterol, certain type of cholesterol, LP
Mhm.
little a. I might want to take a closer look at your vitamin D levels because vitamin D deficiency
Mhm.
is important for it can give you arterial stiffness and raise your blood pressure.
Yeah.
I might want to check your ferritin levels because
Oh.
as your estrogen is erratic, ferritin meaning it's part of your blood count, your red blood cell count, because as you go through menopause, as I said, menstrual irregularities can take on many forms. It's not just
Mhm.
about skipping periods. You could just be having heavier periods, or they
Yep.
could be coming closer together, which
Yes.
means you're losing more blood, which means you could start to become anemic, which then puts you at greater risk of heart disease. So you see how
Yes.
all of these things, it's time to kind
Yes.
of take a look at what they are. And so those would be some of the things that I would recommend. Then, of course, the almighty EKG. Ask for it.
That's so smart. I need to do
If
that
you've
now.
had
Yeah.
one in your 20s and now you're in perimenopause, it's
Mhm.
time to get another one. Let's get them. Let's have them on our records. We should not, when women come to the doctor's offices or come to the emergency room or any place seeking care, we should not have an electronic medical record that's only full of mammograms and pap smears, as
Which is
if we
what
have
yeah.
no other organs. Those are
That's so
important. And I
true.
want you to listen to what I'm saying. I'm not
Mhm.
saying take care of your heart instead of
Yeah.
your reproductive system. I'm saying, and
Definitely.
also your heart, right?
Yes.
And it's an and. Listen, ladies, we can do both things. So
Yes.
it's not an either or. Continue with your mammograms and pap smears. We're on a really good cadence with that. Listen, the
Mhm.
human papilloma virus vaccine by itself, the HPV vaccine, has driven cervical cancer down by
Yeah.
90%.
Yeah.
Just getting that vaccine. So I am just like, I'm all over science and medicine. Mammograms have decreased the rate and also the mortality, the death from breast
Mhm.
cancer. So I am not saying do not do these things. I am saying, and
Yes.
ask for an EKG because behind those breasts, you've got a heart and we need to take a look at it.
I
All
love
right.
that. Behind the breast, you have a heart. And I have to say, I've done a DEXA scan, but now I'm adding the
Yeah.
EKG. I had not even thought about, nobody's said it, I've not heard it, so now I'm going to
Yeah,
add
I
it
mean,
to
the
my,
DEXA scan, obviously, I'm not here to talk about bones and
yeah,
all of
yeah.
that, but listen, I'll just say something about the DEXA scan. DEXA scan measures your bone density. It is
Hmm.
a great test to have as well through
Yeah.
perimenopause because as you lose your hormones are supporting the strength of your bones and your muscle mass as
Hmm.
well. And so we want to get an idea of where you are and how we can best support you in maintaining that muscle mass. That muscle mass is going to help us maintain our vitality, our mobility, our gait, our strength. All of these things will be related to maintaining muscle mass. So that's what the DEXA scan is, taking
Love
a look
that.
at your bones. So you may know terms like osteopenia,
Hmm.
osteoporosis. That's what
Yes.
we're talking about.
Yeah. And there was a woman in the comment section below that asked if she could ask questions. Yes, please, please put the questions in the comment section below and we'll get to those. The
Mhm.
next question I would love to ask you, Dr. Jayne, with cholesterol, going back to those different levels of cholesterol, you were talking about HDL and LDLs. Why do they seem to increase during the perimenopause and menopause
Yeah,
experience?
yeah, they don't seem to increase. They actually increase. The
Yeah.
reason they seem to is because they actually are. That's right. And listen, the same thing because of that loss of estrogen. Estrogen helps drive cholesterol into our cells. And what happens during perimenopause? We start to develop sort of visceral fat. Visceral fat is fat that is being redistributed from our hips and thighs and more to our midsection, more to
Hmm.
our belly. So you have that redistribution of fat. And visceral fat is metabolically active, meaning that the fat in your belly, so it's sort of, we also call that skinny fat. You may see people very thin and they've got a little belly. We call that skinny fat because visceral fat, whether you're overweight, normal size, or thin, also indicates fat that's encasing your organs inside. So we call that, you see thin people, we call it skinny fat, and we're starting to recognize all thin people aren't healthy. And so that visceral fat also is a depot for cholesterol sequestration. And so where cholesterol settles. And so we end up having higher levels of cholesterol. Cholesterol and estrogen also share a common metabolic pathway in the liver. So as estrogen levels drop, we start to see those cholesterol levels rise. And high cholesterol is an independent risk factor for heart disease, which we're back to why is a cardiologist talking about it. Because during perimenopause, you can have rising cholesterol levels. Cholesterol, whether you're in perimenopause, not in perimenopause, you're a man, you're a woman, for everybody, cholesterol is a risk factor for heart disease. So why do we ignore it when it happens to women in perimenopause, when it's a known risk factor for everybody?
That's so true. Gosh, I'm taking so many notes here. Sorry. Let's answer a question here. What if you have a 41-year-old patient who presents with HGB of 4.8, HCT 16.2, and ferritin of 2.9? I don't know if this is too specific for you.
Yeah, it's a very specific question. But basically, it sounds like, what is the hematocrit HCT and the hemoglobin for?
Hemoglobin's 4.8, HCT is 16.2.
The HCT is 16.
16.2 it says.
Yeah, that's odd. So I would say, one of the things we want to measure is the ferritin level. What we want to do is make certain that the ferritin level is high and that this patient, without knowing anything else about this patient, the HCT of 16 is pretty low. Without knowing anything else about this patient, what we want to make certain is that the patient is not anemic. We want to make certain that the anemia is taken care
of. Okay. Thank you for your question. When should women start using a blood pressure monitor at home?
So it's sort of like baseline labs. I think you should always have a blood pressure monitor. Now, how frequently you use it might be age dependent. So if you're in your 20s and you have normal to low blood pressure, you've got a blood pressure monitor, you use it a couple of times, the blood pressure is great. You may be able to just take it out once a year until you're 30. And then at 30, maybe you want to take it out. Your blood pressure is still great. You might want to take it out once a year. Now, of course, you've got your blood pressure monitor. You're going to your doctor for your annual physical. Your blood pressure is fine. You may not need it.
Okay.
But when you start to hit 35, you probably want to check it more often, because the point of a blood pressure monitor, I'm talking about midlife women, is you want to catch your blood pressure when it starts to rise, not when it's already high. So you want to start to do things more frequently. So for instance, at 35, you might switch to once a month, just to see. You want to catch the blood pressure and be able to report it to your doctor, not have your blood pressure rise in between yearly visits and you have no idea when it went up and how long it's been up. That's because blood pressure is a silent killer. High blood pressure, hypertension is a silent killer. And we want to make certain that we catch that early. So that's probably how I would use my blood pressure monitor. Now, if you're in your 20s and you take your blood pressure and it's high, and my recommendation was to take it once a year, that's not for you.
Yeah.
You've got to take it more frequently until we get the blood pressure down, including if you need medications. So that's only if you are in your 20s and your blood pressure is normal and you have a blood pressure monitor at home. The other time to think about using it is if you're having any unusual symptoms. You're having palpitations, or meaning your heart is beating, fast in your chest or something like that. You can take out your blood pressure monitor and get an idea of what's happening.
So much good information. Do you have any tips for how to use a blood pressure monitor at home?
Oh, sure. And listen, I would say this. If you guys go to my page on Instagram, I've probably done several demonstrations on how to use a blood pressure monitor, good and bad, right? how to not use it, how to use it. So just scan through. But in general, what we want you to do is sit in a chair and have your back supported. So you're sitting nice and straight. You're not on a stool. You're not slumped over. You're sitting up nice and straight and your back is supported. So a chair with the back on it. And then you want your arm, I'm demonstrating my left arm, I don't know if I can see, but you want your arm resting on either a table or an armrest where your arm is about level of your heart. And that's maybe right a little bit above maybe your breast line.
Okay.
So your arm needs to be extended, palm turned up, and and it's completely supported. So it's not dangling, right?
Yeah.
In addition to that, you need to sit in a chair where your feet can reach the floor. So that might be a different chair for different people with different heights, which, you know, I talk about that all the time with women coming into doctor's offices. The chairs maybe are comfortable for men, but the woman's legs are dangling.
Good point.
Your pressure could be more elevated, especially if a woman sits back in the chair, her feet may not be touching the floor. So I need your feet to be on the floor and your back to be supported. So you may need to lower your chair depending on what your height is and all of that, but both feet resting on the floor, taking big breaths in and out in the beginning just to settle yourself, and then take your blood pressure. Try not to have caffeine before, try not to be rushing in. You don't take your blood pressure right after exercise, right after you've had your morning coffee. Maybe it's a better time to take it right before your morning coffee. So all of those things can be stimulants, but your posture is actually and how you sit and take the blood pressure is actually very important. And I know many of you probably want to comment or are putting in the comments, they never take my blood pressure like that. It's a doctor's office. My arm is always hanging down. That's right. You know, one of the most common places to have your blood pressure taken incorrectly is the doctor's office.
That's so wild. So that's why you perfect it at home and then let them know when you get there.
Yes, I am aware. I am aware.
I love that. You brought up palpitations when you talked about the monitoring with the blood pressure monitor. Why do women experience palpitations during perimenopause and menopause? Is it associated with heart attacks? Because I know that that's one of the symptoms of perimenopause that women can experience.
Yeah, it's hard to parse those out. So, palpitations are very common during perimenopause because of that loss of estrogen protection of the heart. And so probably if you're perimenopausal and you're having palpitations, it's related to hormone loss, and hormone replacement might make those symptoms go away. Now, you're talking to a cardiologist. And I also know that heart disease is the #1 killer of women. Yeah. So I really don't necessarily want women to jump first to hormone replacement therapy if they're having palpitations. I'd like for you to see a cardiologist, get a cardiac workup, and start with that good old fashioned EKG that we can get on your records. Yeah. If your cardiac workup is negative, then let's think about hormone replacement therapy. Now, I say that because probably it is related to your estrogen. And so, you know, I'm kind of plus minus on how best to start that. If you start with hormone replacement therapy and your symptoms resolve, I'm sort of okay with that. But as a cardiologist, I think the more prudent thing to do would be to get that cardiac workup, even though it's probably related to estrogen.
Also dealing with kind of the palpitations and stuff. And when you were talking about the blood pressure monitor, should women cut caffeine during perimenopause and menopause?
You know, I get this question about caffeine, you know, so here's the answer to that. It's such a broad question. I don't know how much caffeine people are taking.
That's a good point.
How much you should be cutting down, you know. I would say during perimenopause, if you are having palpitations, if your cardiac symptoms are changing and you are a heavy caffeine drinker, then you should certainly think about cutting back on your caffeine. If you see your blood pressure rising, you should think about cutting back on your caffeine. So this is a time when some of your old habits that your body was able to tolerate and manage and compensate for, it may lose some of that reserve for compensation, and you may have to start to figure out how to modify some of your habits.
Yeah, and I'd like to encourage women to use a symptom tracker, because that could also see if caffeine is a trigger. So if you take it out for a little while, see if you're getting those palpitations, see if your blood pressure monitor is going down. I don't know how you look at that since I haven't really done it, but the numbers that they're going down.
Right.
So something to keep in mind.
Right. Exactly.
What lifestyle changes should be made to support heart health? I know what you're going to say, and I can't wait to hear this, but go ahead.
Oh, you know, when we talk about lifestyle changes, I mean, I think there are a number of things that are kind of interesting now.
Hmm.
And I don't like to use the word exercise. I prefer
Oh,
movement because
okay.
exercise is kind of, it's kind of daunting. It's sort of
Yeah.
like, oh my God, now I got to get an outfit and I've got to get a gym membership and I
Exactly.
need
All the things.
an accountability coach and a best friend. And next thing you know, you can't do it. It's just too much. It's too much.
Yes.
I can't exercise. I can't even get started, and the whole thing. And so I'd like to say movement. I want you to
Yeah,
move.
I
I
love
want
that.
you to do something, pick something that you like,
Hmm.
and then just do it every day for about 30 minutes. Anything,
Yeah.
anything that involves moving. If you can't think of anything and you're at home a lot of us are with
Hmm.
working from home, and
Yep.
you have stairs, you basically got an exercise machine right in your
That's
house.
smart. I
So
love
it's
that.
not a matter of going up and down the stairs. It's just incorporating it into what I call your activities of daily living, your ADL. So if you're going upstairs for whatever reason to whatever, take the laundry, go to your office, whatever you're doing up
Hmm.
there, go up and down the stairs 6 times. Then on the sixth time, exit on your landing and go to where you're going.
I love that.
Incorporate movement into your day and what you're doing. If you happen to be carrying a heavy load of whatever, boxes or books or towels or whatever you're taking, make it heavy. Add some resistance. Walk up and down those stairs with that big box of whatever you're doing, and then set it down when you get there. Add some resistance to something that you're already doing every day. And the other thing that I'll say, because we're home, is I often talk about exercise snacks. So
Hmm.
that is just, you know, every 90 minutes to 2 hours, get up and have some activity for 5 or 7 minutes. Fairly vigorous activity.
Yeah.
Walking in place if you have a Stairmaster, maybe lifting some weights for 5 or 7 minutes, going outside, walking around the house for just 5 or 7 minutes. Like everybody can do it. And then you're back and you just sit down and you're done. And then 2 hours, do another 5 to 7 minutes of activity. These are just little exercise snacks. You've gotten through your whole day and you've gotten in 30 minutes of exercise. You haven't even broken a sweat, right? It's just been 5 minutes. So think about these little exercise snacks because it matters. Then the last thing that I'll talk about is that there's a lot being written about exercise variety.
Hmm.
Variety. So it turns out that people who move in a number of various ways during the week and during the day have better cardiovascular health than people who do the same thing every day,
Hmm.
even if you're exercising. So if you're a runner and you just run every day or every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the person who runs on Monday, swims on Wednesday, does Pilates on Friday, actually has better cardiovascular health than you who
Interesting.
are running. So and I'm guilty of that. I teach Pilates. I do Pilates consistently, like for 20 years, and I was like patting myself on the back. I'm also a walker, but it turns out that we need to integrate some of the things. So I'm glad I also added some walking because that's at least two things. But variety of exercise matters because it means that you're forced to use different muscle groups, different training of your mind, different thought processes, different levels of effort, and it helps your cardiovascular health. So if you're doing one thing, like your cardiologist is right here, mix it up. And I have added walking, mix it up and try to have some variety. Now, I will say this. If you're doing something every week and you're like, oh my God, I can't figure out how I'm going to mix it up, please don't stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Continue to work out every day. These are small gradients of changes, right? This is not going to topple anybody over. So if you, whatever, run 3 times a week and you're like, oh my God, I can't pick up tennis. Now what am I supposed to do? Just keep running,
Yeah.
right? We want you to continue that physical activity. I'm giving you like top levels, if you like really want to push yourself next level, but it's not really that big of a gradient of an increase. But, we're talking about higher, highest, right? We're not talking about low, medium, high. We're like already high. And if we want to inch it, up one or two. So
Can I tell you, I thought you were just going to say exercise. This got me so excited. One, because the first part made me think about, how people used to say park further away from the store so
Right.
you could walk further. But
Right.
now, like you said, I work remotely, and these are all things that I can incorporate into my day that I wasn't even
Right.
thinking of. So I love that for one, and I'm going to definitely share it with our community. And then for two, the variety. Back in my 30s, I ran every day. And then
Mhm.
around mid 30s, I noticed my body wasn't really responding to it. And I was like, what is going on? And then
Mhm.
I started incorporating, like you said, other activities, strength training, of course. So I love that you shared that study. I'm definitely going to look it up because I'm living it. So I love
Yeah.
that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. And
How
I
can
think strength
sleep?
training is great. I didn't bring that up, but for midlife women, you already talked about that DEXA scan because you can
Mhm.
lose bone, lose muscle. Strength training is important. Now, it doesn't mean you got to get, a personal trainer and go to the gym. Again, I want to make it simple. I want to keep simple things simple. It just means adding some resistance. So I
Yeah.
talked about, carrying heavy things up and down the stairs. I talked about just movement of your arms, things that you're doing during the day, but obviously there are other things as well. So again, I teach Pilates, so there are resistance bands, and there's
Definitely.
the magic circle. All of these things add weights, and I see people doing weight vests and ankle weights. Anything that you can do
Hmm.
that adds some resistance, because that increases bone turnover, increases your bones being strong.
Yeah. And I used to be so afraid of weights, but now I'm like, bring it on.
Yeah,
Um,
and again, and be careful of weights as well, because you don't want to injure yourself and have a back injury and all of these kinds of things. You need good posture, because then you're setting yourself backwards. You're like, oh my God, I was trying to get stronger. Now I've got to recover from
I
an
can't do
injury
it.
and I'm getting weaker. So, it's in moderation. You do want to use weights and use things that give you resistance, but they don't have to kill you. They need to just give you some resistance where
Yes.
you can feel the weight and you are doing some work and you can see your muscles working as you do it. It doesn't mean that, like you see one of those big guys, they're laying down on the bench on their
You're making all
back,
the
they've got
noise.
the dumbbells across their chest, and they're like, here we go, here we go, here we go. So that's not what we're talking
I
about.
love that. How can sleep be an indicator of your heart health?
Yeah, so sleep is directly related to heart health, duration of sleep, and quality of sleep. And those have been well vetted studies in
Mhm.
cardiology. So, duration, and again, it's not additive. It's not, well, I fell asleep and I got 2 hours and I got up and,
Mhm.
and then I fell back asleep and I got another 3 hours and I woke up again. Then I finally fell asleep again and got an hour. So that counts. There's my 6 hours for the night. No, that doesn't count. It's got to be consecutive hours, and that's your duration of sleep. And sleep is restorative to not just your mind, it's restorative to your body, to your bones, also to your heart. So you recognize sleep and sleep deprivation as risk factors for heart disease. It increases your stress, increases chronic inflammation in the body, and back to that
Mhm.
visceral fat. Inflammation drives atherosclerosis, which is plaques in the arteries, and those plaques in the arteries increase your risk of heart disease, increase your risk of heart attacks. So all of that is important.
Good information. So, last question on this section. What foods should women eat for a healthy heart?
Yeah,
Are
they're
there
not.
specific foods?
Yeah, there really are not so many specific foods. I know people often ask me that. I try to be general. American Heart Association recommends the DASH diet, which is a low salt diet. I think for perimenopausal women, a better diet is more of the Mediterranean diet.
Mhm.
It's more colorful, incorporates a lot more green leafy foods, and it also incorporates more protein, lean protein. And we do need more protein as we get older.
Definitely. Love that. So now it's Perry Toolkit time. We're all about adding items to a woman's toolkit to help her get through this perimenopause and menopause journey. So I wanted to ask for a few items from you. This is going to be going into the books. What tools do you recommend women add to their heart health toolkit during perimenopause and menopause?
Their heart health toolkit. So we talked about getting an EKG. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about getting an LP little a. And I think, and I think we talked about having your ferritin levels drawn, adding resistance to your movement. Um, I think some of the other things are to, consider hormone replacement therapy. I don't think it's for everyone, but the black box warning has been removed. And what that
Mm-hmm.
means is it has given us the ability to make our own decisions about
Yeah.
something, as opposed to the decision really being with the government. So make your own decision. I think it's a conversation that is worth having. So I think those are probably, some of the big ones that talk a lot about, vitamin D and vitamin D deficiency. So make certain you get your vitamin D levels, supplement if you need it. And the blood pressure monitoring, all those risk factors for heart disease are really important. So we talk about blood pressure, we talk about cholesterol, talk about weight gain. We haven't talked about insulin sensitivity and diabetes, but all of those are risk factors for heart disease that begin to increase as your estrogen levels decrease and become more erratic. And even without that, those are all individual risk factors for heart disease.
Okay. And then when going back to education, what books and sites do you recommend women read to learn more about heart health?
Heart health. Well, that's very interesting. I would say me. You can follow me. I probably do it the most.
Yeah.
Really focusing on heart health, and I published some papers on heart health and menopause as well. We're watching on IG. I'm here on IG at Dr. Jayne Morgan, DrJaynemorgan. But if you have friends who are not here, I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Oh, wow.
And I'm on Threads and YouTube and TikTok. So, follow along, send your questions if you have them. I do tons of podcasts. I post a lot of that information. Feel free to send questions, and, good heart health journey.
Yes, I love that. I'm so glad you shared all those places they can find you. Do you have any favorite heart rate monitors or wearables that you recommend to help with heart health?
Sure. So my favorite heart health monitor is Hello Heart. It's a Hello Heart blood pressure monitor. And I'm the vice president of medical affairs for Hello Heart. So I know a lot about this monitor.
Yes.
Interestingly, though, it is not available directly to the consumer.
Oh.
So check if you're working for a company, check if your company on their health plan, if you have health insurance through your company, find out if your health insurance provides the Hello Heart monitor. We have many, many, many companies as clients, and probably your company is already a client.
Interesting.
If your company is a client, you get the monitor for free. It's not just the monitor, it comes with an app, digital coaching. It's all gamified. So this is an entire system, coaching system that helps to keep you moving forward, helps to keep women specifically. We have a lot of information on women and a lot of information on menopause and perimenopause. We have actually an area where you can toggle into perimenopause and menopause and get even deeper information on it as you monitor your blood pressure. And then those dot-to-dot connections. How does walking affect your blood pressure? How does eating affect your cholesterol? How does eating affect your blood pressure? How does walking affect your cholesterol, right? It's all integrated. And you get these overlays so that you can see how, as you're walking more, your blood pressure's dropping, your cholesterol's dropping. As you're eating this, here's some of the effects that you're getting. So a lot of insights are provided, a lot of digital coaching. So that's really my favorite one because it's an entire system with an app and a digital coach that comes with it.
Wow, I can't wait to look into this. That's perfect.
Yes, Hello Heart.
Well, let me just look really quick. I think that I saw some questions maybe. I've been on HRT for a year, yet my hormone labs just showed that I'm still low. What could be causing this when I'm already taking estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone? Is that also, do you think that's too?
Yeah, I don't know how old this person is or what doses you're on. So unfortunately, I'm going to just address it at a high level. You're checking your hormones, so it may be that your doses are not high enough. Oftentimes we'll dose to the point where your symptoms are controlled. And again, that's why it's sometimes not effective to check blood levels. But I think it's something to think about and have a conversation about whether or not, without knowing anything else about you or what's happening, whether or not your doses can be increased or not.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And if you have any other questions that weren't answered here today, I would like to let you know that customer care can get back to you at customercare@menolabs.com if you email them there. And if you're looking for support beyond today's chat, head to menolabs.com to explore products that can fit your unique menopause journey because there's no one size fits all. And for today, we have a special promo. If you use Heart 30, you'll get 30% off. So thank you to Dr. Jayne for joining us. I so appreciate this. And thank you to our viewers. As always, this session should not be considered medical advice and is being provided for information purposes only. It is not intended to substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult with your healthcare provider should you have any questions or concerns.
Yeah,
Once
and
again,
that's great. And I was going to say, I do have master classes at Middle List, Middle, Middle List, List, and also at Hello Perry. So I have master classes there in cardiology and perimenopause and menopause. I have many other specialists that are with me. So orthopedists and OBGYNs, all teaching specialty, all teaching master classes. So feel free to log on there and take a master class.
and I will share all this information with our community. Thank you
Sure.
so much, Dr. Jayne. This has meant so much. Have a wonderful day and see you guys on the next show.
Bye.
Oh.